In 3.5, we learned how to add and subtract matrices, and it was pretty straightforward. We learned how to multiply a matrix by a scalar, by a number, and that was pretty straightforward. Now we're going to learn how to multiply two matrices together, which just is not, it's not intuitive at all. You don't look at it and just say, well, that makes sense. It's weird. So to teach this to you, I'm just going to use simple as an example as I can think of that brings a lot of different things together. Okay, so we'll take this matrix, and then we'll take this matrix. Okay, we're going to multiply these two matrices together. First, the thing we're going to want to do each time we multiply matrices together, whether you believe it yet or not, is first we're going to write the dimensions of each of the matrix down. So this is a 2 by 2, and this is a 2 by 3. Okay, the important thing to know is whether or not you can multiply these matrices together. So the way that you know you can multiply them together is by these two here. The number of columns in this one, or no, the number of rows in this one, and the number of columns in this one. You have to have just as many columns, let's see, just as many columns here as you do rows here. So let's just state that again so that I can be sure that I haven't said it in a confusing way. We have to have just as many columns here as we do rows here. Okay, it's going to become pretty clear when we actually start to multiply them. Something else that's going to be really helpful for us in the beginning, without fully understanding it yet, is if I look at these two outside ones, what I know about the resulting matrix is that it's going to be a 2 by 3. And why that's helpful is if we can kind of make sure that we're filling this in correctly. Okay, so we're going to have something that goes here and here. That's the 2, and then here, 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 and here. Like I said, it's going to be a 2 by 3. Now we just need to know, how do we fill these things in? Okay, so something that is helpful is to see that this thing, let's fill this in first. This is in the first column and the first row. First row and the first column. Okay, so this is first row, first column. First row, first column. So how do we find the thing that goes in this matrix in the first row and the first column? We're going to take the first row in the first matrix times the first column. First row times the first column. What in the world does that mean? Okay, we're going to take this row and we are going to rotate it to the right. Okay, if we imagine this being this physical row of numbers, and so we rotate it to the right 90 degrees, so that now it's 1 and 3. Instead of 1 and 3 from left to right, it's 1, 3 from top to bottom. And we're going to multiply this first row by this first column. So how does that go? We're going to multiply this number by that number, so 1 times 5, that's 5, plus, we're always going to do, we're going to do these two numbers times each other, then we're going to add the next thing. The next thing is 3 times 2. And that's 6. Okay? So if you're saying, what? That was really confusing. It is rather confusing, and it just takes a lot of practice. Okay? So just to help us here, this is in the first row, and in this second column. Second column. First row, second column. First row, second column. We're going to take the first row, just like we did here. We're going to rotate it, just like we already have written, and multiply it by the second column. First row times second column. First row, second column. So that's a 1 times 7 is 7, plus 2 times 3, that's, or 3 times 3, that's 9. 3 times 3, that's 9. Okay. Next, like that, that's the second one. Now the third one. This is in the first row still, and the third column. First row, third column. So we're going to take the first row, rotate it like we already have here, rotate it to the right, so now it's vertical, and multiply it by the third column. 1 times 9 is 9. And 3 times 6 is 18. Plus 18. Okay, now we're done. We've multiplied the first row by all 3 columns, and now we're going to go on to the next row. This is the second row, first column. So second row, first column. So how are we going to find that? We're going to take the second row and multiply it by the first column. So we're going to rotate it just like we did before. Maybe we'll do this one in blue. The second row is going to get rotated just like this, rotated up so it's vertical, to the right there, right? Don't rotate it the other way, rotate it to the right. And we do the exact same thing, only now we're going to multiply the second row by each of the columns. So second row by the first column gives you the number that's in the second row in the first column. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus 5 times 2 is 10. And now we are in the second row, second column. Okay. So second row again, we're still using the second row from the first matrix, 4, 5, times the second column. So 4 times 7 is 28, and 5 times 3 is 15, so then we add 15. Second row, third column, second row times the third column. So second row times the third column. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 5 times 6 is 30. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. And there you go. Now we need to just add everything together. As we see in each position, 5 plus 6, that's 11. 7 plus 9, that's 16. 9 plus 18, that's 27. 20 plus 10 is 30. 28 plus 15, that's 30, 43. And 36 plus 30 is 66. Okay. Wow. That is a weird thing. Definitely matrix multiplication is a weird thing. There's really nothing that can be done about its weirdness. It just is weird. Just remember that we need these two to be the same in order to be able to multiply them. And now that seems a little more clear as to why, because we're going to take this row, flip it to the right so it stands up, and multiply it by this column. So if we're going to do that, then there needs to be enough numbers to match up. So there needs to be the same amount of numbers in this row as there are in this column. Okay, so that's what needs to happen. And remember, it's really helpful to like write blank spots for these numbers to go. So that is how we do matrix multiplication. If you don't understand it, you can go back through it again and again. In the next video, we'll do some example problems, and we'll just keep on doing the same thing over and over. All right.